I believe in werewolves. Vampires not so much. I think that they kind of like there's a form of a vampire which like they suck your energy, but I don't think that they actually suck your blood.
Well, being that we're Wiccans believe that some people can suck your energy.
They can. So, werewolf is a widespread concept in Europe, folkloric site, existing in many variants, which are related by a common development of Christian interpretation of underlying European folklore, developed during the medieval period. From the early modern period, werewolves' beliefs are also spread to the New World with colonialism. I know how to say that damn word.
There you do. Belief in werewolves developed in parallel to the belief in witches. In the course of the late Middle Ages and the early modern period, like the witchcraft trials as a whole, the trial of supposed werewolves emerged in what is now Switzerland, especially the Valais and Vaud, in the early 15th century and spread throughout Europe in the 16th, peaking in the 17th and subsiding by the 18th century.
Which we did one on the Salem Witch Trials, guys.
Yeah, you should go watch it. It's pretty good.
We go deep.
The pain in the mirrors.
The word werewolf continues a late Old English compound of were, man, and wolf. The term lycanthropy, referring to both the ability to be wolf and the act of so doing, comes from ancient Greek.
Ooh. The word does occur in ancient Greek sources, but only in late antiquity, only rarely, and only in the context of clinical lycanthropy, described by Galen, where the patient has the ravenous appetite and other qualities of a wolf. The Greek word attained some currency only in Byzantine Greek, featuring in the 10th century Encyclopedia Suda. Your turn.
Use of the Greek derivative. It's just this derivative.
Oh, derived.
Lycanthropy in English occurs in learned writing beginning in the later 16th century, first recorded in 1584 in the discovery of witchcraft by Reginald Scott, who argued against the reality of werewolves. Lycanthropia is a disease and not a transformation. That's what he said anyway.
I've heard that there are some diseases that cause you to grow hair.
Yeah, there's those ones with, say, like a part of like the Curiosity Circus and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it.
My cousin's son, when he was born, had to take this medication that made him grow extra hair. He looked a little bit like a monkey.
They have hair all over their face.
Yeah, he looked a little bit like a monkey.
It's usually like
all of this like whole forehead was covered in hair and parts here and his arms.
Yeah, it's usually it's like a Mexican ancestral thing.
At first, explicitly for clinical lycanthropy, i.e. the type of insanity where the patient imagines to have transformed into a wolf, and not in reference to supposedly real shapeshifting. Use of lycanthropy for supposed shapeshifting is much later, introduced in 1830. Last one on that crease.
The werewolf folklore found in Europe harks back to a common development during the Middle Ages, arising in the context of Christianization and the associated interpretation of pre-Christian mythology. In Christian terms, their underlying common origin can be traced back to Proto-Indo-European mythology, where lycanthropy is reconstructed as an aspect of the intuition of the warrior class.
Okay. This is reflected in Iron Age Europe in the Tierkrieger. I probably just butchered that word. Depictions from the Germanic sphere, among others. The standard comparative overview of this aspect of Indo-European mythology is McCone. I don't catch the reference.
1987.
I'm guessing it was a book written in 1987 about lycanthropy.
Such transformations of men into wolves in pagan cult was associated with the devil from the early medieval perspective.
But she said, oh. The concept of the werewolf in Western and Northern Europe is strongly influenced by the role of the wolf in Germanic paganism, but there are related traditions in other parts of Europe which were not necessarily influenced by Germanic tradition, especially in Slavic Europe and the Balkans, and possibly in areas bordering the Indo-European sphere, the Caucasus, or where Indo-European cultures have been replaced by military conquest in the medieval era, i.e. Hungary, Anatolia. Oh, that's it. Hungary and Anatolia. Gotta close your brackets, babe. That one.
Some modern researchers have tried to...
Wait,
what?
what the hell? Did we skip some shit? Oh, you're here. A few.
Crickets.
What? You started reading and I was like, wait, that's not the next one.
A few references to men changing into wolves were found in ancient Greek literature and mythology. Herodotus, in his histories, wrote that Nuri, a tribe he places in the northeast of Scythia, were all transformed into wolves once every year for several days and changed back to their human shape.
Righto.
Don't make fun of me.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the words. In the 2nd century BC, the Greek geographer Pausanias related the story of Lycaon, who was transformed into a wolf because he had ritually murdered a child. In accounts by Bibliotheca and Ovid, Lycaon serves human flesh to Zeus, wanting to know if he is really a god. Lycaon's transformation, therefore, is punishment for a crime considered variously as murder, cannibalism, and impiety. Ovid also relates stories of men who roam the woods of Arcadia in the form of wolves. Ooh.
There were numerous reports of werewolf attacks and consequent court trials in 16th century France. In some of the cases, there was clear evidence against the accused of murder and cannibalism, but none of association with wolves. In other cases, people have been terrified by such creatures, such as that of Gilles Gardner and Dole in 1573. There was a clear evidence against some wolf, but none against the accused.
No. Took too long. Werewolvery was a common accusation in witch trials throughout their history, and it featured even in the Valais witch trials, one of the earliest such trials altogether in the first half of the 15th century. Likewise, in Navarre, child-eating werewolves were reported as early as 1448. A peak of attention to lycanthropy came in the late 16th to early 17th century as part of the European witch hunts. A number of treatises on werewolves were written in France during 1595 and 1615. Werewolves were cited in 1598 in Anjou, and a teenage werewolf was sentenced to life imprisonment in Bordeaux in 1603. Whoa. Just whoa.
Some modern researchers have tried to explain the reports of werewolf behavior with recognized medical conditions. Dr. Lillis of Guy's Hospital in London wrote a paper in 1963 entitled On Porphyria and the Etiology of Werewolves, in which he argues that historical accounts on werewolves could have in fact been referring to victims of congenital porphyria, stating how the symptoms of photosensitivity, reddish teeth, and psychosis could have been grounds for accusing a sufferer of being a werewolf.
Very interesting. This is, however, argued against by Woodward, who points out how mythological werewolves were almost invariably portrayed as resembling true wolves, and that their human forms were rarely physically conspicuous or as porphyria victims. True.
Others have pointed out the possibility of historical werewolves having been sufferers hypertrichosis, a hereditary condition manifesting itself in excessive hair. That's what we were talking about.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Growth. However, Woodward has dismissed the possibility as the rarity of the disease ruled it out from happening on a large scale, as werewolf cases were in medieval Europe.
People suffering from Down syndrome has been suggested by some scholars to have been possible originator of werewolf. What?
People are down.
Down syndrome. Face doesn't even look anything like a wolf.
No.
It's ridiculous, people. Absolutely ridiculous.
Woodward suggested rabies as the origin of werewolf beliefs, claiming remarkable similarities between the symptoms of that disease and some of the legends. Woodward focused on the idea that being bitten by a werewolf could result in the victim turning into one, which suggests the idea of transmittable disease like rabies, which I could see.
Yeah, I could see that. Let's see.
I think that's what killed Edgar Allan Poe, or syphilis.
Probably syphilis.
Or both.
However, the idea that lycanthropy could be transmitted in this way is not part of the original myths and legends and only appears in relatively recent beliefs. Lycanthropy can also be met with as the main content of a delusion. For example, the case of a woman has been reported who, during episodes of acute psychosis, complained of being 4 different species of animals.
Me too. I'm 5 different species.
Oh yeah, I'm a monkey and a ferret and...
Ferret, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The beliefs classed together under lycanthropy are far from uniform, and the term is somewhat capriciously applied.
Oh, capriciously, yeah.
The transformation may be temporary or permanent. The were-animal may be the man himself metamorphosized, but may be his double whose activity leaves the real man to all appearance unchanged. Maybe his soul which goes into seeking whoever it may devour, leaving his body in a state of trance. Or it may be no more than the messenger of the human being, a real animal or familiar spirit, whose intimate connection with its owner is shown by the fact that any injury to its is believed by phenomena known as repercussion to cause a corresponding injury to the human being. So if the familiar gets hurt, you get hurt.
Basically.
Valentina's my familiar. Oh.
Hermione's mine.
She likes me more.
She loves me more. Werewolves are said in European folklore to bear telltale physical traits even in their human form. These included the meeting of both eyebrows at the bridge of the nose,
You got a unibrow.
curved fingernails, low set ears, and a swinging stride. One method of identifying a werewolf in its human form was to cut the flesh of the accused under the pretense that fur would be seen within the
Because you know when you cut a dog, the fur is inside the dog too, you know.
Right, and the cats, and
A Russian
wolves.
superstition recalls a werewolf can be recognized by bristles under the tongue. Bristles under the tongue. Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense. The appearance of a
Yeah.
werewolf in its animal form varies from culture to culture, though it is most commonly portrayed as being indistinguishable from ordinary wolves, save for the fact that has no tail. Why would it have no tail? A trait thought characteristic of witches in animal form, or skinwalkers, is what witches in animal form are. Is often larger and retains human eyes and a voice. According to some Swedish accounts, the werewolf could be distinguished from a regular wolf by the fact that it would run on three legs, stretching the fourth one backwards to look like a tail.
That's ridiculous.
Tinkerbell does that.
On so many levels, that's ridiculous.
Tinkerbell does that.
There's more.
Is my sister's Chihuahua a shapeshifter or a werewolf? Da, 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 da.
I've been in a room alone with that toy. That's a scary thought.
Well, she runs with only three legs, and one of them's like sticking out like. You're weirdo.
You're a weirdo.
Yes, it's weird because we're talking about like three different subjects.
After returning to their human forms, werewolves are usually documented as becoming weak, debilitated, and undergoing painful nervous depression. One universally rivaled trait in medieval Europe was the werewolf's habit of devouring recently buried corpses, a trait that is documented extensively, particularly in the Annales Medico-Psychologiques, I don't know, in the 19th century. One of those words I'm butchering, I'm sure.
Finno-Scandinavian werewolves were usually old women who possessed poison-coated claws that had the ability to paralyze cattle and children with their gaze.
Really now.
So they're like Medusa.
Ooh. Various methods of becoming a werewolf have been reported. One of the simplest being the removal of clothing and putting on a belt made of wolf skin, probably as a substitute for the assumption of an entire animal skin, which also is frequently described. Okay.
In other cases, the body is rubbed with a magic salve. Drinking rainwater out of the footprint of an animals in question or from certain enchanted streams were also considered effectual modes of accomplishing metamorphosis. Ew.
Okay.
That all sounds gross.
In the 16th century, Swedish writer Olaus Magnus says that the Livonian werewolves were initiated by draining a cup of specially prepared beer and repeating a set formula. Ralston, in his Songs of the Russian People, gives a form of incantation still familiar in Russia. In Italy, France, and Germany, it is said that a man or woman could turn into a werewolf if he or she, on a certain Wednesday or Friday, slept outside on a summer night with the full moon shining directly on his or her face.
I'm a full moon.
Well, I'm a werewolf. I don't know about
In
you.
other cases, the transformation was supposedly accomplished by a satanic alliance for the first loathsome ends, often for the sake of sating a craving of human flesh.
Where? It's the word. Sating, yeah, sating, like,
Craving for human flesh.
you know, satiating, kind of.
So Jeffrey Dahmer was a werewolf because he had a craving for human flesh.
Ooh.
Valentino, I was petting you.
Various methods have existed for removing the werewolf form. In antiquity, the ancient Greeks and Romans believed in the power of exhaustion in curing people of lycanthropy. The victim would be subjected to long periods of physical activity in the hope of being purged of the malady. This practice stemmed from the fact that many alleged wolves would be left feeling weak and debilitated after committing depredations.
Depredation.
What a big word. Ow, God. Eat right, people. You don't want to become diabetic. It's painful.
In medieval Europe, traditionally, there are three methods one can use to cure a victim of werewolfism. Medically, usually via the use of wolfbane. Surgically or by exorcism, however, many of the cures advocated by medieval medical practitioners provide fatal to the patients. I plan on doing a medieval medical video. There's some weird, and they liked mercury. Some weird things back then.
That's why I feel dizzy.
Yeah, because your blood sugar's too high.
Well, take the damn that Pepsi away from me then. Shit. At least I can recognize the symptoms.
Yeah, I used to think it was because it was too low.
The Sicilian belief of Arabic origin holds that a werewolf can be cured of its ailment by striking it on the forehead or scalp with a knife. Another belief from the same culture involves the piercing of the wolf's hands with nails. Sometimes less extreme methods were used. In the German lowland of Schleswig-Holstein, I hope I didn't butcher that too bad, a werewolf could be cured if one were to simply address it 3 times by its Christian name, while one Danish belief holds that merely scolding a wolf will cure it.
Yeah,
Bad wolf!
In True Blood,
Pinch poke, you owe me a Coke.
in True Blood, they have werekids. Werepanthers, actually, but they're supposed to be like werewolves, but they're cats. Where are you?
I just did.
Okay, conversion to Christianity is also a common method of removing werewolfism. In the medieval period, a devotion to Saint Hubert has also been cited as both cure for protection of lycanthropus, whatever. Saint Hubert. Where the hell Saint Hubert is? I will find a picture of Saint Hubert now. There he is.
No idea. I have no idea.
My little weird panther. Ow.
Before the end of the 19th century, the Greeks believed that the corpses of werewolves, if not destroyed, would return to life in the form of wolves or hyenas, which prowled battlefields, drinking the blood of dying soldiers.
That's cooler.
In the same vein, get it? Blood vein. In some rural areas of Germany, Poland, and northern France, it was once believed that the people who died in mortal sin came back to life as blood-drinking wolves. You're silly.
These undead werewolves would return to their human corpses' form at daylight. They were dealt with by decapitation with a spade and exorcism by the parish priest. So both. The head would then be thrown into a stream where the weight of its sins was thought to weigh it down. Sometimes the same methods used to dispose of ordinary vampires would be used. The vampire was also linked to the werewolf in East European countries, particularly Bulgaria, Serbia, and Slovenia. In Serbia, the werewolf vampires are known collectively as Volkaduck.
Fuck a duck?
Volkaduck? I don't know.
Fuck a duck.
Bulkodlak.
Weirdness. Ow, wake me up.
So they're kind of one and the same. All these creatures are kind of like the same kind of thing.
In Hungarian folklore, the werewolves used to live especially in the region of Transdanubia, and it was thought that the ability to change into a wolf was obtained in the infant age after suffering abuse by the parents or by a curse.
Werewolves, man.
At the age of 7, the boy or girl leaves the house and goes hunting by night and can change to person or wolf whenever he wants. The curse can also be obtained when in adulthood the person passed 3 times through an arch made of a birch with the help of wild rose's spine. You're not supposed to tell people that we're werewolves, babe.
We're the lichens. What the hell is a wild rose's spine?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like the stem of the rose?
Probably.
The werewolves were known to exterminate all kinds of farm animals, especially sheep. The transformation usually occurred during the winter solstice, Easter, and a full moon. Later in the 17th and 18th century, their trials in Hungary not only were conducted against witches, but also werewolves too, and many records exist creating connections between both kinds. Also, the vampires and werewolves are closely related to Hungary, being both feared in the antiquity.
Very interesting. Am I on the very top? Mm-hmm. Among the South Slavs and also among the Kashubs of what is now northern Poland, there was the belief that if a child was born with hair, a birthmark, or a caul on their head, they were supposed to possess shape-shifting abilities.
Told you I'm a shapeshifter.
Though capable of turning into any animal they wished, it was commonly believed that such people preferred to turn into a wolf. See, I was born with a full head of hair, so that just makes me the biggest werewolf on the planet.
Serbian oh my goodness, Vakdoyeks traditionally had the habit of congregating annually in the winter months, when they would strip off their wolf skins and hang them from the trees. They would then put a hold of another Vakdoik skin and burn it, releasing from its curse the Vakdoiks from whom the skin came.
Not wow. Why? I wasn't laughing at the way you were saying it. I was laughing at the word itself, you dick. God. That hurt. According to Armenian lore, there are women who, in consequence of deadly sins, are condemned to spend 7 years in wolf form. In a typical account, a condemned woman is visited by a wolf skin toting spirit who orders her to wear the skin, which causes her to acquire frightful cravings for human flesh soon after. With her better nature overcome, the she-wolf devours each of her own children, then her relatives' children, in order of relationship, and finally the children of strangers. She wanders only at night with doors and locks springing open at her touch. When morning arrives, she reverts to human form and removes her wolf skin. The transformation is generally said to be involuntary, but there are alternate versions involving voluntary metamorphosis, where the women can transform at will.
I can transform at will.
Shh! The world does not need to know that we're Americans. Oh my god! You gotta keep this stuff on the low.
The Nescapists believe that the caribou afterlife is guarded by giant wolves, which kill careless hunters venturing into near Navajo people feared witches in wolf's clothing called Meakab.
Sorry. Woodward thought that these beliefs were due to the Norse colonization of the Americas. When the European colonization of the Americas occurred, the pioneers brought their own werewolf folklore with them and were later influenced by the lore of their neighboring colonies and those of the natives. Belief in the loup-garou, such a funny word, present in Canada, the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan and upstate New York, originates from French folklore influenced by Native American stories on the Wendigo.
I always like the word Wendigo.
Oh yeah, it's kind of an interesting word. You should name our son
In Mexico,
Wendigo.
there is a belief in a creature called Nahol, which traditionally limits itself to stealing cheese and raping women rather than murder.
Stealing cheese and raping women. These two are not mutually exclusive, people. What the hell kind of folklore are they coming up with? It's gotta be something weird, and then something normal.
There's still cheese and I'm just gonna rape you women. That's alright.
It's like Santa who brings you gifts, but he eats the cookies.
We're gonna get into Krampus around Christmas.
Krampus! Sorry.
Oh, depression.
Better go get you some more. In Haiti, there's a superstition that werewolf spirits, known locally as Jeru, or red eyes, can possess the bodies of unwitting persons and nightly transform them into cannibalistic, lupine creatures. Ooh. The Haitian Jeru typically try to trick mothers into giving away their children voluntarily by waking them at night and asking their permission to take their child, to which the disoriented mother may either reply yes or no. The Haitian Jeru differ from traditional European werewolves by their habit of actively trying to spread their lycanthropic condition to others, much like vampires. I'm sorry, that's one thing that really kind of bugs me about those kind of things where they spread. They want to spread it. If you just keep spreading vampirism, you run out of people to eat.
Yeah, really. Okay.
Kind of the same with the lycanthropy thing. You run out of people to eat.